Bar farmer Joe Del Bosque told the senator 20 of his workers haven't shown up due to fears over immigration checkpoints.
If there aren't going to be people to pick the food, it's going to go rotten in the fields, and that means that the fruit that is and vegetables that are picked, the price is going to go.
Trump pretends to be an economic genius, but I guess he doesn't understand the basic law of supply and demand.
It's about $250,000 to $300,000 worth of revenue.
Just left to rot.
Yeah, which is one thing, but it's also lost revenue for the workers that would have been able to pick them had they been here.
Oregon farmer Ian Chandler says about half his usual crew didn't show up this season, leaving him scrambling to backfill dozens of positions.
You're calling them, I assume, individually
Yes.
and saying,
Yes.
what's going on?
Yes. And so
what are they telling you?
Well, in the beginning of the season, it coincided, unfortunately, with a lot of really strong immigration enforcement down in Southern California, where our workforce comes from. And that kind of had a chilling effect on people wanting to move.
While Ian says his workers are hired with what seemed to be a valid ID and work papers, fear of ICE raids kept many of them from traveling north this year.
Trump's immigration raids are hurting everybody in this country, not just undocumented workers, but also the farmers that rely on them and us. American farms depend heavily on immigrant labor. Over half of all U.S. farm workers are undocumented. These people are harvesting our food for poverty-level wages and no benefits. Tell me an American who wants to work in those conditions for that level of pay. But Trump's aggressive ICE raids have undercut that workforce, leaving food rotting in the fields, food prices going up, and putting small farms at risk. This isn't just inhumane, it's bad economics. These farms cannot function without workers. Trump's raids are not solving any problems, they're just creating new ones. If we really care about food security and fair treatment, we need immigration reform, not political theater.
I know right now, people, it's hard to find some joy in some things, but what I find joy in is I just watched a video on Montana where the Montana farmers are going bankrupt. I think the state voted 100% districts to what's going on now, so and then I look at Nebraska and see all the farmers crying about how they're losing everything, and then I look at Nebraska and how much they voted for this and how the farmers endorsed all this, and I say, them. And then I'm watching the soybean farmers crying about how they can't export soybeans anymore because nobody wants them and they're losing money. But they supported this. Them. Then I saw a video on vegetable farmers in Alabama that all their crops are going rotten because they don't have anybody to work the fields, but they voted for this, so you all got what you voted for. We tried to tell you.
Farmers for Trump are struggling, man. They're struggling big time. They don't like the results of what they voted for. You know, their crops are rotting. They don't have, workers to actually help them with their harvest, and they're having to leave their crops in the field to actually rot away. And a lot of them have come out and declared bankruptcy. Why, you might ask? All this because they didn't want to listen to nobody's warning, and they wanted a great America and to own the leaves. But how is owning the leaves actually taking you? Because you did this to yourself, man. Nobody actually did this to you, and you knew exactly what you're doing. It's only that you are happy, other people being affected except you. Now that they actually have been directly affected in their farms, especially, by tariffs actually taking away their market share, and also, them losing like 98% of their labor force because it was comprised of Latino immigrant workers. Now, this is where black folks and Democrats are actually sitting down and enjoying your tears, because they told you, they warned you, they tried to help you back in November, but you didn't want to listen. You effed around, you find out. I'm a presenter, Joel Mogisha. If you're new, kindly consider subscribing, hit that like button, let me know your opinions in the comment section below. But I have a couple of videos that I've sampled for you guys to check out. I'll be back with more commentary after this.
This is the consequences when we chose the wrong direction. Oh my God. Yes. It is what it is. Make America great. Yeah, low prices.
Well,
Look like farmers are running out of cash, y'all. Under the crisis brought on by Trump. You know, some small farmers, they're on the brink of bankruptcy. Can't afford to run their farms. Well, they ain't got to worry, because J.D. Vance is there. You had to buy up that fucking land. But that's what they wanted from the beginning. That's my opinion. They wanted to boot some of the farmers out so they can buy that land. They wanted their land. It's a goddamn shame that the farmers didn't see it coming. Goddamn shame. Yeah, they didn't see it coming. If they had this, you know, did a little more research, especially on J.D. Vance, he want that goddamn land. He want their land. That's my opinion. But if they had took the time and did some research, I think they wouldn't have voted Trump. But that's my opinion. Oh well. They lose the land, they lose their land.
Regarding all these farmers that are now crying about possibly losing their farms because they voted for Trump, this is why you absolutely should not feel bad for any of these farmers that voted for Trump. Now, the ones that didn't vote, yes, feel sorry for them, go support them, do whatever you need to do. But the ones that voted for Trump, do not feel sorry for them, and let me tell you why. I am a builder, and I've been building shit in Oklahoma City going on like 20 years now, and farmers are not stupid. If you have the ability to manage a farm and understand the weather, the climate, your machinery, the chemistry that goes into your crops, you are not a stupid person. You're just not. And especially when you come from generational farming, you have the ability to look ahead and predict what you need to survive. And so when you have two candidates where you have Kamala Harris on one side giving you a whole fucking list of shit that she's going to do for you and make your life better, and then you have Trump on the other side who can't even come out with a normal sounding sentence, and you still vote for that guy, and you are a farmer, you are either racist or sexist or both. And they're only crying now because now they are being treated exactly how they voted for other people to be treated. Got that? They are being treated how they voted for other minorities, people of color, everybody else, poor people, sick people. That's how they voted for other people to be treated. And now they're the ones being treated that way by losing their livelihood, their homes, their income, their farms. So do not feel sorry for them. This is exactly what they had coming. Quick follow-up as to why exactly would Trump be doing this to farmers anyways, and I'm guessing 99% chance it's because he wants to bankrupt farms so his corporate buddies can come in and do a land grab. Basically what you have been seeing the last few years, major companies buying up a bunch of rental houses and jacking up the price of rents, and it's all going to corporations. It's probably something similar to let these farms go to foreclosure and his corporate buddies be able to come in, swoop them up, and now you've got bigger companies involved in more of our day-to-day food.
Our food supply is about to be jacked up, and I've already said that Farmers for Trump is one of the stupidest voting demographics out there. So this is an article from CNN. It says, deportation fallout. This farmer lost half his workforce. Now he's losing his crop too. This article is a little long, but it's important to know and understand what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. The cherries are rotting on the trees in Ian Chandler's orchards. Branch after branch hang heavy with fruit the Oregon farmer calls mummified, dark, shriveled, and unappetizing. They should have been picked a couple of weeks ago to tempt shoppers at the markets and stores, or processed to garnish Sherry Temple mocktails, shiny and fat, promising bursts of sweetness. The lost harvest has hit almost a quarter of Chandler's 125 acres of cherry trees, not because of bad weather, disease, or blight, but because there was no one to pick the fruit. What you're going to see is a bunch of fat, happy raccoons this winter, Chandler says ruefully, standing amid his steel Burton trees. Unfortunately, we weren't able to harvest these. He said he's built up a loyal seasonal workforce for his Wasco County operation called CE Farm Management, about 90 minutes from Portland, with the same people coming year after year and staying in touch with birth announcements and Christmas cards in between. But this year, half of them did not arrive, and many of his neighbors were scrambling for pickers too. All told, Chandler said he will lose about $250,000 to $300,000 in revenue left to rot on the trees. It's lost revenue for the operations, which is one thing, but it's also lost revenues for the workers that would have been able to pick them had they been here. The beginning of the season, it coincided, unfortunately, with a lot of really strong immigration enforcement down in Southern California, where our workforce comes from, and that had a chilling effect on people wanting to move. Chandler's pickers are mostly Latinos who follow the harvest in the West and Northwest. But with raids from ICE on cities and workplaces and detentions and even deportations ensnaring many with no criminal records, he has seen a dramatic drop-off in labor this year. It's a situation that's being repeated across the nation as crops ripen for harvest. The U.S. Department of Agriculture estimates that 42% of higher crop farm workers are undocumented immigrants with no authorization to work. Another 26% are immigrants who have become citizens or permanent residents. Since April, 1.4 million people have dropped out of the U.S. labor force, 802,000 of whom were foreign-born, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Farm workers are not tracked in official monthly job reports, but analysts agree immigration policy is having an impact generally across the nation. The issue has come to the attention of Trump, who promised help for the agricultural sector in a Tuesday morning phone interview with CNBC. I take care of the farmers. I love the farmers. They're a very important part of this country, and we don't want to do anything to hurt the farmers, he said. VP J.D. Vance has said his preferred solution is automation, but Chandler's farm won't be mechanized. He believes cherries are best harvested by hand, preferably an experienced one, not to rip off next year's crop that's already showing as buds.
Did y'all see that farmer that voted for Trump that's now about to lose his farm because of Trump? Even though Kamala was the one who passed the bill to give him the money that he needed for his farm in the first place. Now he's on TikTok begging for us to help him keep his farm, and he's gonna say, oh, it's not supposed to be an us versus us, it's supposed to be us versus them. Us. Then he gonna say, oh, it's corrupted on both sides of the aisle, it's all about money. So you thought the felon who was impeached was in the pockets of billionaires, had dozens of cases out against him. You thought he was the less corrupt option to go with over the woman who worked in all three branches of the government, spent her entire life being a civil servant, and passed the specific bill that gave you the loan that you needed for your farm, that the administration you voted for has just signed an executive order to undo. Oh, all I have for you, sir, are concepts of sympathy. I have concepts of thoughts and prayers. Do I have them actually? No. I won't be holding up the prayer line for you. Why would I do that? No, I'm not helping. No. And what's so funny is there's probably a bunch of farmers that voted for Trump that are now about to lose their farms because of him. Y'all thought he cared about y'all just because y'all share the same. He don't. Because not only do you have to be YT for him to actually give a fuck about you, you also have to be rich. That's the point y'all are missing. Y'all not rich. Y'all are working people. He's not for y'all.
Alright guys, let's be honest here, because we gotta tell the truth as it is, man. And if we're putting politics aside, my opinion, you might actually check me on this or educate me if I'm wrong on this, or let me know in the comment section. But if I'm being honest here, These farmers for Trump are not smart, man. Politics aside, they are not smart, because as a farmer, I expect you to actually, make the best decisions that are going to help your business run and actually become successful and stay afloat. That is the least that you can do as a businessman. As a farmer, you're also a businessman or a businesswoman. I understand that a lot of these farmers actually inherited their farms from, their ancestors, generations to generations. They might actually not be, as I would say inspired or as committed as their grandparents were, into running these farms, or they would actually be maybe less knowledgeable and less, able to do this actually. Now, if you are a farmer and you voted for the orange man, you did this to yourself. Nobody else actually did this to you. You did this to yourself, because you're getting exactly what you voted for. And it is nothing as a surprise to you, because this is exactly what the orange man actually did to y'all back in 2017 in his first term. He actually put in tariffs that affected farmers, and I want to talk about a few things that are actually affecting these farmers and making their farms actually to go bankrupt, making them to come here online looking for bailouts from the government and asking the rest of America if anybody cares about farmers in Nebraska and all over other places. Number one is tariffs. Now, the orange man ran a campaign on tariffs. It was just a Google search away from you to go ahead and learn what a tariff is and how exactly it actually affects, you as a businessman. Just a Google search away, you could have actually learned that a tariff is paid by the country imposing the tariff. The businesses in the country imposing the tariffs actually pay the tariffs, not the other way around. If they're putting tariffs on China, Mexico, and Canada, that means that, American businesses buying up materials from Canada, Mexico, and, China are going to pay the tariff. That is exactly how it works, and it's not actually rocket science here. And a lot of them lost their market because of retaliatory tariffs from China. China was actually the biggest market for soybean farmers, and they lost that market. Why? Because actually China stopped buying soybean from the United States, and guess who took that share of the market? Brazil. Brazil is celebrating right now. Why? Because of policies that these farmers actually voted for that they did not understand. Number two, I want us to talk about deportations. Yeah, exactly what they voted for. They voted for a great America. They voted for, jobs to be brought back to Americans. I don't know which American you thought was happy to work in the farms, especially for minimum wage. Nobody. Under those conditions, at least the least you gotta pay them is above minimum wage to even attract them to come and do these farm jobs. Now, no American is going to work in the farm for minimum wage, especially in the same conditions that, a lot of these illegal immigrants were working in. Nobody is gonna do that. Don't even consider black folks. Black Americans ain't doing that, especially with the history, that's connected with working in the farms and picking up, harvest. Yeah, we all know that. They ain't doing that. Now, they voted for mass deportations. Why? Because, again, the orange man ran a campaign on mass deportations. Now, why do you actually do that? When you know that 98% to 100%, arguably, of your labor force actually consists of, illegal immigrants that you are ripping off. Yeah, you're ripping them off because you're paying them under minimum wage to enrich yourself. They're helping your business actually to grow, and this is exactly what is affecting these people, because now them farm workers have been deported, or they are either scared of ICE raids in the fields. Yeah, that is exactly what's happening. And no illegal immigrants that's gonna show up at the farm, when they know that ICE can just pull up anytime. Nobody's gonna do that. Of course, those who are still in the United States are gonna look after themselves. They ain't gonna come to them farms to work. Of course, they're gonna actually be happy to stay at home. Now, this is actually causing what? This is causing the harvest to actually rot because there is nobody to pick them harvest. Now, you might say, why are they not mechanizing this? Yeah, you can mechanize some harvest, I guess, but there's some harvests that are better off, picked by hand. They require gentle picking so that you don't ruin the crop for the next yield. And that is best done by hand, not by a machine. And tomato workers in Florida are seeing, their tomatoes rot in the farm. Why? Because ain't nobody to pick them up. All the illegal immigrants that were working for you, they ain't coming back to them farms. Why? They have been deported, or they are actually scared of ICE raids in the farms. And this is exactly why the orange man has come up and said, yeah, I care about the farmers, I love the farmers, and I think that we should call back them illegal immigrants, to come back and work in the farm because they were naturally meant to do so. Really? Naturally? What are you insinuating? That they were born to do that job? Of course not. They were not actually born to do that job. They are not natural, farm workers. It's just that they were motivated by, a survival instinct that is actually way more pushing than any kind of American that is going to go there and pick crops in the farm and burn in the sun. They actually will happily do that under minimum wage. Why? Because they know they are illegal. They cannot find another job officially. What they can do is labor intensive work, and they are happy to do that. Why? Because they're trying, to earn something and earn a living, and they have an advantage, of course, of sending that money back to their countries, and of which the superior dollar becomes something for them to actually share with their families. Karma at its best, man. Farmers in tears, the best FAFO of the year. Nobody has been affected more than farmers for Trump. But let me know in the comments, guys. I'm your presenter, Joel Mugisha. Thanks again for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel if you're not. Hit that like button. It really helps with pushing this, video in the algorithm. And as always, see you on the next episode.